The phone rang at 7 in the morning, piercing the quiet of my bathroom routine. I was just finishing up my edges in the mirror, the edge brush still poised in my hand. When I glanced at the screen, it flashed Bank of America, and my heart did a little somersault. "Not the good kind," I answered, trying to sound composed. "Hello? Is Vance speaking?" The voice on the other end was professional, detached, like they were reading from a script. "This is the loan department calling. We're reaching out to remind you that the first payment on your personal loan is due in 3 days. The amount is $850. I froze, the brush hovering midair. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it. "Excuse me? What loan?" "A personal consumer loan for $15,000. Taken out 2 weeks ago," the representative replied matter-of-factly. 2 weeks ago? I was at work 2 weeks ago, buried in spreadsheets and client meetings. "I have never taken out a loan in my life," I said, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. "This has to be a mistake. Ma'am, we have a contract with your electronic signature and a copy of your driver's license. The funds were withdrawn in cash. If you have questions, you'll need to visit a branch." Before I could protest further, the line went dead. I stood there, staring at my reflection, feeling my fingertips go numb. The edge brush slipped from my hand and clattered into the sink. This couldn't be real. A loan in my name? My credit was impeccable. I'd worked hard to keep it that way. My husband's voice drifted from the living room, lazy and unconcerned. "You still here?" I walked slowly out of the bathroom, my legs feeling like lead. Drayton was lying on the couch in the exact same position as yesterday, on his back, laptop balancing precariously on his stomach, unshaven, wearing a stretched-out white tee that had seen better days. "My husband, my burden." "Drayton," I said, my voice surprisingly calm despite the storm brewing inside me. He glanced up, barely registering my expression. "What's up?" "I just got a call from the bank about a $15,000 loan," I said. Watching his face closely, his expression didn't even change. He just set the laptop aside and stretched his arms over his head, as if I'd mentioned the weather. "Oh yeah, I meant to tell you." "I meant to tell you?" 2 weeks ago, someone had taken out a loan in my name, and he meant to tell me? "You took it out for Mama," he continued casually. "You need to stop by the bank and deposit some money from your paycheck. Since I'm not working right now, I can't cover it." He said it like he was asking me to pick up a loaf of bread on the way home. My mind reeled. "You took out a loan in my name for $15,000? "Yeah," he shrugged, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "Mama needed her roof fixed urgently. She asked me. I couldn't say no to my own mother." "How did you take out a loan in my name without me being there?" I demanded, my calm facade cracking. He shrugged again, avoiding my eyes. "Power of attorney. Remember those papers you signed when we sold your old Honda 6 months ago?" I slipped a power of attorney in there. I remembered. Drayton had brought me a stack of papers one evening, claiming they were all routine for the car sale. I'd been exhausted from a long day at work, trusting him implicitly. I'd signed them without looking too closely. Fool. That's what I felt like now. A complete fool. "So just handle the bank," Drayton said, reaching for his laptop again as if the conversation were over. "And call Mama. She wanted something." I grabbed my purse and walked out without another word. The door clicked shut behind me, and I stood on the landing for a few seconds, staring at the peeling paint on the hallway walls. This building, this condo, I'd been paying for it for 7 years, pinching pennies on everything while he lay on that couch, now telling me he'd put me in debt like it was nothing. In the elevator, I started shaking, not from fear, but from pure rage. 7 years. For 7 years, I'd carried this family on my back. I worked overtime while Drayton found himself, paid the mortgage while he wrote spoken word poetry that nobody wanted to hear. I helped his mother, Auntie, who looked at me like I was hired help. And now they'd hung a $15,000 anchor around my neck. On the drive to the bank, I replayed our history in my mind, trying to understand how I'd ended up here. We met 8 years ago in a coffee shop on Peachtree Street. He quoted Langston Hughes, acted all romantic, talked about high art, and how money was just a tool of the system. 24-year-old me was charmed by his passion, his dreams. We had a modest wedding. Drayton insisted it was better to spend the money on his creative materials. His mother, Auntie, showed up in a designer dress and complained about her health the entire night, turning what should have been a joyful day into a series of grievances. The first year of marriage, Drayton worked a little, a part-time gig at a bookstore. Then he quit because his boss didn't respect his vision. The second year, he wrote a novel that never saw the light of day. The third year, he learned to play bass guitar, convinced he could start a band. Fourth, fifth, sixth, I lost count of his endless projects, each one fizzling out before it began. All that time I worked. I got promoted from junior accountant to mid-level, then senior associate. I paid off the mortgage on our condo, the one bought with my savings from before we even met. Drayton was convinced it was ours, while his mother called every week with complaints: high blood pressure, heart palpitations, money for meds, money for groceries, money for repairs. Her disability check from Social Security was decent, but it disappeared into thin air. Every month, I'd transfer her $300 or $400. Drayton would say, "It's Mama is. She's lonely. She's sick. How can we say no?" I never said no. I never said no to anyone. And that was my problem, my fatal flaw. At the bank, I asked for a statement and a copy of the contract, my hand still trembling slightly. The teller handed over the documents, and I scanned them eagerly. There it was, my name, my details, but the signature. It looked like mine, but it wasn't. I have a specific little loop on the end of my E, a habit from childhood, and it wasn't there. This was a forgery. This is a forgery, I told the teller, my voice steady now. I didn't sign this. In that case, you'll need to go to our fraud department and the police, she replied sympathetically. Can I ask who received the funds? I pressed. The young woman looked at her screen. Per the power of attorney, Drayton Vance, your husband. For now, I muttered under my breath. I didn't go to the fraud department yet. I needed time to think, to process. At work, I locked myself in my office, the familiar hum of the air conditioner doing little to calm my racing thoughts. I opened my online banking app, checking our joint savings account, the one where I'd been stashing money for emergencies, for a future. The balance showed $42 a year ago. There was over $20,000 in there. My savings, earned through late nights and skipped lunches. I pulled the transaction history, my heart sinking with each scroll. Cash withdrawal, $1,000. Another, $500. Transfers to a digital wallet. $200, $300, $400, month after month. Over $20,000 gone. My husband had drained it all in a year. Is you good? Jamila, my colleague, a sharp lawyer and the only person I truly trusted at the firm, was standing in the doorway, her brow furrowed. Come in, close the door, I said, waving her in. I told her everything, the loan, the forged signature, the missing money. As I spoke, her eyes narrowed, her legal mind kicking into gear. Forgery is a felony, Jamila said, leaning forward. And if he took the money without your knowledge, that's fraud, wire fraud, bank fraud. He's looking at real time. Can you prove the forgery? I need an expert, I replied. I know a guy who does handwriting analysis. That evening I went home as usual, forcing myself to act normal. I cooked dinner, chicken stir-fry, Drayton's favorite, and we ate in silence, him not looking up from his phone. You go to the bank? He asked casually between bites. I did, I said, keeping my tone even. And I'm handling it. By the way, what did your mom want? Call her yourself, I snapped, unable to hide the edge in my voice. After dinner, I called my mother-in-law. Isa, finally, Althea said, her voice dripping with impatience. I need some groceries brought over and my prescriptions picked up. Okay, I replied shortly. Then, testing the waters. By the way, how's the roof repair going? Pause. What roof? Drayton said the roof was leaking. That's why he took the loan. Oh, that. Yes, it's leaking, but it's bearable for now. The roof can wait. Sure, I thought bitterly. That night, when Drayton fell asleep on the couch, his snores filling the living room, I took his phone. The code was simple, our wedding date. He never hid it from me. I opened his banking apps. There were 3. The first was empty. The second was overdrawn by $800. The third was linked to an online gambling site. My stomach churned as the pieces fell into place. I scrolled through the history, feeling sicker with each entry. Deposit $500, withdrawal $50, deposit $1,000, withdrawal 0. He lost over and over again, chasing the win. In 1 year, Drayton had gambled away nearly $20,000. My money. The money I'd saved for a rainy day, for a vacation, for a better life. My hands shook as I took screenshots, capturing every damning transaction. Then I opened his texts with his mother. Drayton, Mom, I sent it. Check the app. Althea, got it. Going to look at it tomorrow. I scrolled up further. Drayton, Mom doesn't suspect a thing. She's naive. Just lay low. Let her think the money is for the roof. I found a car. It costs exactly $15,000. A car. His mother was going to buy a car with the money from the fraudulent loan in my name. I sat in the dark, looking at my sleeping husband, the man I'd vowed to love and cherish. For 7 years, I'd been a good wife. And they thought I was a fool, a walking ATM. But they didn't know one thing. A year ago, my grandmother, Big Ma, had passed away. She'd left me a condo in a quiet part of Decatur. I hadn't told anyone, handling the inheritance quietly. I had a place to go. I had evidence. And now, the seeds of a plan were forming in my mind. The next week, I ordered a handwriting analysis from Jamila's contact. The expert reviewed the signature and said, obvious forgery. I'll have the official report in a week. I called a friend at the DMV to check if Althea had registered any vehicles. The answer came back in 2 days. Althea Vance had registered a silver sedan valued at $14,000. 2 weeks ago, 3 days after Drayton got the loan. Everything matched. On Saturday, I went to Althea's house with groceries, as requested. In the driveway stood a new used car, a shiny silver sedan. New car? I asked innocently. Took out a loan? She lied smoothly. My old Buick finally gave up the ghost. Had to, alone, of course. I went upstairs and checked the ceilings. No leaks, dry as a bone. The roof story was a complete lie. When I was leaving, Althea pulled me into one of those fake bone-crushing hugs. Thank you, Issa. You're pure gold to us. A gold mine, she meant, I thought as I drove away. At home, Drayton was watching football, oblivious. How's Mama? Good. She showed me the car. Good for her. She needed it. On my money, I thought, the rage simmering just below the surface. A few days later, Jamila called me for lunch. She had been digging through her channels. Your mother-in-law gets disability benefits from Social Security, right? For a bad back. Yeah. Well, Jamila leaned in. That's fraud. Federal fraud. She's healthy. I saw her hauling bags of mulch at Home Depot last weekend. Exactly. The disability claim was filed 5 years ago. Spinal issues, but she lifts 50 lb bags. That's serious jail time if we can prove she's healthy. Video, I said. I need a video of her doing something impossible for her diagnosis. The next Saturday, I went over there with my phone camera ready in my pocket. Althea was unloading her trunk, cases of water, bags of soil. This 60-year-old invalid was lifting 40 lbs like it was nothing. She bent, squatted, and twisted without a flinch. Later, over sweet tea, she groaned, "Oh, my back is killing me." "Can barely walk," I nodded sympathetically. The camera had recorded everything. At home, Drayton was nervous, bouncing his leg, checking his phone constantly. That night, I checked his texts again. "Bro, I need 15 grand by Friday. I'll pay you back with interest." "Drayton, man." "You already owe me 10. I scrolled further. More debts, $5,000 to one guy, $3,000 to another. Drayton owed people nearly $20,000, on top of the loan, on top of the casino losses. Total damage, $15,000 loan, $20,000 stolen savings, $20,000 in street debts, $55,000. How does a man fall so low? The Drayton who read poetry, who talked about despising money. He was stealing from his wife and gambling it away while his mother defrauded the government for 5 years. They were a family of grifters, and I'd been their mark for 7 years. I lay awake until sunrise, staring at the ceiling, thinking about what a fool I'd been. But that night I made a decision. Not just divorce, not just leaving. I was going to make them pay, not out of vengeance, though that was part of it, but out of justice. I pulled out a notebook and wrote a plan, item by item, like a good accountant, neat, methodical. Item 1, gather all evidence. Forged signature, check. Gambling records, check. Althea's car purchase, check. Fake disability, check. Drayton's debts, check. The sun was coming up. A new day, a new life. Outwardly, I was still the same Issa, making breakfast, smiling at my husband, calling my mother-in-law. But inside, it was cold calculation. The handwriting analysis report arrived exactly 1 week later, delivered in a crisp manila envelope to my office. I waited until lunchtime, when the floor was quiet, before opening it. The expert's conclusion was printed in clear professional language. The signature on the loan agreement exhibits clear signs of imitation and was not executed by the named individual. ESA Vance. The loop on the terminal E is absent, and stroke pressure variations indicate tracing or deliberate copying from a reference specimen. I read it twice, my pulse steady now instead of racing. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was court-admissible evidence. I scanned the document, saved multiple copies to an encrypted cloud drive. I'd set up the day after the bank call and locked the physical report in the small safe beneath my desk, the one I used for client tax documents. No one at work knew the combination except me. That afternoon, I met Jamila for coffee in the building's atrium cafe. She arrived with her usual brisk energy, laptop under one arm, legal pad in the other. "Show me," she said without preamble. I slid the report across the table. She scanned it quickly, lips pursing in satisfaction. "This is gold," she murmured. "Combined with the power of attorney misuse and the cash withdrawal records, we've got felony identity theft and bank fraud. But we're not stopping there." "I know," I said quietly. "There's more." I told her about the gambling apps, the screenshots I'd taken from Drayton's phone, the text messages with Althea about the car, the DMV registration confirmation. Jamila listened without interrupting, her pen moving rapidly across the legal pad. "You've been busy," she said when I finished. "Most women in your position would have confronted him, screamed, cried, maybe thrown him out. You've been building a case like it's a tax audit." "I am an accountant," I reminded her with a small, bitter smile. "I count everything, including betrayals." We spent the next hour mapping out the timeline. Jamila drew a neat chart on her pad. 6 months ago, power of attorney slipped into car sale documents. Possible coercion, fraud, and procurement. 2 weeks ago, fraudulent. $15,000 personal loan obtained using forged signature plus POA. Same day, cash withdrawn by Drayton. 3 days later, Althea registers new silver sedan, $14,000. Ongoing past year, $20,000. Drained from joint savings via gambling deposits, withdrawals. Ongoing, $20,000 plusers in private debts owed to various individuals. Ongoing 5 years. Althea, collecting Social Security. Disability while physically capable. Total financial damage to you personally. Approximately $55,000, Jamila calculated. But the real damage is the felony exposure. If we move carefully, we can hit them from multiple angles simultaneously. I nodded. Shock and awe, right? Exactly. She tapped her pen against the table. But before we pull any triggers, we need to secure your assets. The condo is the biggest prize. You said you paid the down payment before? Marriage and all mortgage payments from your personal account? Every cent. I have bank statements going back to 2016. The down payment came from my savings account that I opened in college. Drayton never contributed a single mortgage payment. I kept separate records because, well, I never fully trusted him with money. Jamila's eyes gleamed. That's beautiful. In Georgia, separate property remains separate if it can be traced. Premarital funds used for down payment, plus sole payment of mortgage during marriage. We can argue the entire condo is your separate property, not marital. It's an uphill battle in some courts. But with your paper trail, we have a strong shot. What about dissipation of assets? I asked. The gambling losses, the stolen savings, does that help? Absolutely. Georgia recognizes dissipation when one spouse wastes marital funds on gambling, drugs, extramarital affairs, etc. If we prove he gambled away, $20,000. Without your knowledge or consent, the court can award you a larger share of whatever marital assets remain. And since the condo is likely separate, that leaves almost nothing for him. I exhaled slowly. For the first time since the bank call, I felt something like hope. Cold, hard, calculated hope. That evening, I continued the charade at home. I cooked dinner, baked salmon with asparagus, something healthy Drayton usually complained about, but ate anyway. He sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, leg bouncing under the table like it always did when he was anxious. "You seem quiet," he said without looking up. "Just tired," I replied. "Long day? You still handling that bank thing?" "I'm handling it." He nodded, satisfied. After dinner, he stretched out on the couch again, laptop open, pretending to work on lyrics. I cleared the kitchen, loaded the dishwasher, then quietly retreated to the bedroom to continue my secret preparations. I'd already opened a new checking account at a small credit union, downtown, under my maiden name, Jenkins. Every payday, I'd been quietly directing a portion of my direct deposit there. $500 one week, $300 the next, small enough that Drayton wouldn't notice the slight dip in the joint account balance. Over the past 3 weeks, I'd moved nearly $4,000 into the new account. It wasn't much, but it was mine, untouchable. Next, I contacted the notary who'd handled Big Ma's estate transfer. I scheduled an appointment for the following Saturday to confirm the title on the Decatur condo was still in my name alone, and that no liens or claims existed. The notary, a kind older woman named Ms. Evelyn, reviewed the documents over the phone. Inheritance received during marriage is generally considered separate. Property in Georgia, especially if no marital funds were used to maintain or improve it, she explained. Your late grandmother left it directly to you. Your husband has no legal claim unless he can prove commingling or contribution, which, from what you've said, he can't. Perfect. I had an exit. A safe place no one knew about. The following Saturday arrived. I told Drayton I was running errands and visiting a friend in Marietta. He barely grunted in response. I drove straight to Althea's house with 2 bags of groceries. Chicken, rice, greens, the usual. The silver sedan gleamed in the driveway like an accusation. Althea greeted me at the door with her usual performance. Slow steps, hand on her lower back, a theatrical wince. Lord, this weather is killing my spine, she sighed. I smiled politely and followed her inside. While she unpacked the groceries, I casually wandered through the house, pretending to admire her new curtains. I checked every ceiling. No water stains, no discoloration, no sign of any leak. The roof story had been pure fiction. On my way out, she pulled me into another crushing hug. You're a blessing, Issa. Pure gold. I smiled tightly. Anything for family. Driving home, I reviewed the video I'd taken the previous weekend. Althea lifting. Heavy bags of soil and water cases, bending and twisting with no apparent pain. I transferred it to my secure cloud folder labeled simply Evidence, Althea. That night, Drayton was restless. He kept checking his phone, pacing the living room, muttering to himself. I pretended not to notice. Around 11 p.m., he said he was going out to meet the guys for a drink. I nodded, said nothing. As soon as his Uber pulled away, I grabbed my keys and followed at a distance. He went downtown to a trendy lounge near Edgewood. I parked across the street, hood up, and watched. He met a woman, young, maybe 25. Bright blonde weave, tight dress, expensive-looking purse. They hugged, longer than friends hug. Then they kissed, deeply. I took photos with my phone zoomed in. When they walked out holding hands, I took more. I didn't feel the stab of pain I expected. Maybe I'd already cried all my tears in silence over the past 7 years. This was just another data point, another line item. Later, back home, I checked his phone again while he slept. The woman was saved under Pizza Hut. The messages were damning. Chantel, when you leaving her, Drayton? Drayton, soon, sunshine. Just gotta handle some business. Chantel, you've been saying that for 6 months. I'm tired of waiting. Drayton, just wait. I'm gonna have money soon. Big money. We'll start a new life. Chantel, what about your wife? Drayton, she won't do nothing. She's stupid. She won't even understand what happened. Stupid. The word hit like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I screenshot every message, added them to the growing folder. Adultery. Another. Felony-level betrayal in Georgia, where fault can still influence asset division. The next 2 weeks passed in a strange, suspended tension. I played the perfect wife on the surface, cooking, smiling, asking about his day, while underneath, the plan solidified. Jamila introduced me to Mrs. Holloway, a divorce attorney known for being ruthless with cheating, thieving husbands. We met in her sleek Buckhead office. She was in her mid-50s, impeccably dressed, eyes sharp as razors. I handed her the binder I'd assembled. Bank statements, screenshots, photos, the handwriting report, DMV records, Althea's disability video. She read in silence for nearly 30 minutes, occasionally making notes. When she finished, she removed her glasses and looked at me directly. Miss Vance, she said, you have a loaded gun here. Several, actually. The question is, what do you want? Justice, I answered. Justice is vague. Be specific. Do you want him in jail? Do you want the money back? Do you want the condo? I want the condo. It's my home. The money? I doubt I'll ever see most of it again. He's broke. But I want him to answer for what he did. And his mother, too. Mrs. Holloway nodded slowly. Here's the strategy. First, file a police report for identity theft and forgery. That starts the criminal case against Drayton. Second, simultaneously file for divorce, citing adultery and financial fraud. Third, alert the bank about the attempted home equity loan scheme. That stops the money flow. Fourth, tip off the Social Security Administration about Althea's fraud. The key is timing. Do it all at once. Shock and awe. She paused. I advise you to move out before you file. When your husband learns about the police report, he may become unpredictable. Do you have somewhere to go? Yes, I said. My grandmother's place. Good. Start moving valuables and documents quietly. Don't touch the joint account yet. Let him think everything is normal. I spent the next week doing exactly that. A box of clothes here. Important papers there. Jewelry. My favorite blender I'd bought myself. Everything went to Jamila's garage for safekeeping. I didn't disturb the new credit union account. I wanted Drayton to have no idea how much I'd already protected. On Friday evening, Drayton came home beaming. Issa, great news. Mama signed everything. The house is in my name now. We go to the bank tomorrow for the loan. My blood turned to ice. The 50,000 home equity loan? Yeah, he was practically bouncing. Imagine, 50 grand. My project is about to take off. I forced a concerned expression. Are you sure? A loan against a house is risky. Don't worry. If I can't pay, Mama will help. It's temporary. He grinned like a child on Christmas morning. Okay, I said softly. Whatever you say. That night, after he fell asleep, I texted Mrs. Holloway. They're going to the bank tomorrow for the $50K equity loan. The reply came almost immediately. Understood. I'll contact the bank's fraud prevention unit first thing in the morning. File the police report the day after. Stay calm. The next morning, Drayton left early to pick up Althea. I claimed a migraine and stayed in bed until he was gone. Then I moved quickly. I packed the rest of my essentials: laptop, toiletries, shoes, the expensive coffee maker I'd bought with my last bonus. I looked around the condo one final time. 7 years of my life. The walls I'd painted, the couch I'd paid for, the kitchen I'd organized. Wasted? No, I'd learned. I left my house key on the kitchen counter, next to a single sticky note that read simply, "We need to talk." I walked out, locked the door behind me, and drove to Big Ma's condo in Decatur. The moment I stepped inside, the scent of her old lavender sachets hit me. I walked through the small, cozy rooms, touching her Bible on the shelf, her ceramic angels. "Thank you, Big Ma," I whispered. "You saved me." I cleaned, aired out the place, made the bed with fresh sheets. This was my sanctuary now. That evening, Drayton called. His voice was shaky. "Issa, where are you?" "Work trip," I lied smoothly. "Why?" "We were at the bank. They denied the loan. Said there was a flag on the property. Suspected fraud." "What is going on?" "I don't know, Drayton," I said calmly. "You'll handle it." He stammered something incoherent, then quieter. "The police called me. They want me to come in tomorrow. Something about a personal loan." "You'll handle it," I repeated. "I have to go." I hung up, sitting in Big Ma's living room, surrounded by her things. I finally allowed myself to smile. Tomorrow I file for divorce. Tomorrow Drayton finds out his wife isn't stupid. Tomorrow the storm begins. The morning of January 11th, 2026, dawned cold and gray in Atlanta. I sat in Detective Barnes's office at the precinct, the binder of evidence resting on my lap like a loaded weapon. The detective was a large, tired-looking man in his late 50s, with salt and pepper, hair and eyes that had seen too many broken marriages and too many lies. "So, Miss Vance," he began, adjusting his glasses, "you're alleging your husband committed identity theft and forgery to obtain a $15,000 personal loan in your name." "Yes." I opened the binder and slid the handwriting analysis report across the desk first. "This is the expert conclusion. The signature is not mine. Signs of imitation are clear." He scanned it, eyebrows rising slightly. "You had this done privately?" "I did, but I'm prepared to submit to an official comparison if needed." He made a note. "Anything else?" I laid out the rest methodically. The transaction history showing $20,000 drained from our joint savings into gambling accounts. The screenshots of deposits and losses. The text messages between Drayton and Althea about using the loan money for a car instead of a roof. The DMV registration of the silver sedan 3 days after the funds were dispersed. Detective Barnes leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled. "You had access to his phone?" "We're married. He gave me the passcode years ago. Never changed it." He nodded slowly. "All right, we'll open a case. Forgery, identity theft, theft by deception." We'll also look into the potential wire fraud aspect since the application was electronic. Your husband will be brought in for questioning. He already received a courtesy call yesterday, correct? Yes, from the bank's fraud unit, about the attempted home equity loan on his mother's property. Barnes gave a dry chuckle. So he's got two problems now. You've built quite the file here. Miss Vance, most people come in with a hunch and a prayer. You came in with a spreadsheet. I'm an accountant, I said simply. I believe in numbers. He studied me for a moment. You understand he's facing real time? Felony convictions. Permanent record. Probation at best, prison at worst if he fights it. I'm prepared to testify, I answered without hesitation. From the precinct, I drove straight to the Fulton County Courthouse to meet Mrs. Holloway. She was waiting outside the clerk's office, impeccable in a charcoal suit, her briefcase at her side. Everything filed? I asked. Police report this morning. Divorce petition this afternoon. We're citing adultery, financial fraud, dissipation of marital assets, and misuse of power of attorney. Emergency motion to freeze assets is already in. He can't sell, transfer, or encumber anything without court approval. We walked inside together. The clerk processed the paperwork. Quickly, Mrs. Holloway attached every piece of evidence we had. Mortgage statements proving I alone paid the down payment and every monthly payment since 2016. Gambling transaction logs, photos of Drayton and Chantel, the disability video of Althea lifting heavy objects. By late afternoon, the divorce was officially filed. I felt no joy, only the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. That evening, my phone exploded. Drayton. Issa, where are you? Police asking crazy questions. Why aren't you answering? Drayton. They said you filed a report. Is this true? Drayton. Answer me, damn it. Then Althea called. Her voice was high-pitched, almost hysterical. Issa, what have you done? My son is at the police station because of you. Althea, I said calmly, your son committed a felony. He forged my signature on a loan application. He stole from me. He gambled away $20,000 of my savings. What gambling? You're lying. I have the receipts. 20 grand in 1 year. And tomorrow the Social Security Administration receives an anonymous tip, complete with video of you, lifting heavy boxes and moving furniture while claiming total disability for 5 years. Silence, then venomous. You wouldn't dare. I already did. I sent the video this afternoon. This is blackmail. No, Althea. This is consequences. You used me for 7 years. You called me a gold mine. You tried to scam a bank with your son's help. It's over. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but my soul felt lighter than it had in years. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Drayton was questioned twice. He tried to play the I didn't know it was illegal card. We're married, he told Detective Barnes. What's hers is mine. Barnes didn't blink. Forging a signature is a crime, son. Marriage doesn't change that. Bank security footage showed Drayton withdrawing the $15,000 in cash. The handwriting expert confirmed the forgery in the official police analysis. The evidence was overwhelming. Meanwhile, the Social Security Administration moved quickly. Althea was called in for an independent medical exam. She tried to fake a limp and exaggerated pain, but the doctor noted inconsistencies. An updated MRI showed a healthy spine for a woman her age. When investigators presented the video of her unloading heavy items from her trunk, she crumbled. She was ordered to repay over $32,000 in overpaid benefits. A federal fraud investigation was opened. The brick house she'd tried to transfer to Drayton was seized as part of asset recovery. The divorce hearing arrived. In early March, I sat beside Mrs. Holloway in the courtroom. Drayton looked like a ghost, thin, ashen, wearing a cheap suit that hung off him. He had a public defender who looked barely older than a law student. The judge, a stern black woman in her 60s, reviewed the file in silence. Drayton's lawyer tried one last argument. The condo should be considered marital property. They lived there together for 7 years. Mrs. Holloway rose smoothly. Your Honor, we have irrefutable proof that the down payment came from Miss Vance's premarital savings in 2016. Here are the bank statements. Furthermore, every mortgage payment during the marriage was made solely from her personal payroll account. The respondent contributed $0. We also have evidence of dissipation of marital assets. The respondent gambled away approximately $20,000 of joint funds without consent. And finally, photographic evidence of adultery. She laid out the photos of Drayton and Chantel, The judge's expression hardened. She turned to Drayton. Do you have any receipts showing contribution to the mortgage or down payment? Drayton stammered. I contributed to the household, Your Honor. Receipts? The judge pressed. No, Your Honor. The ruling came swiftly. Divorce granted. The condominium located at address redacted is awarded solely to the petitioner. Issa Vance as separate property. Respondent is ordered to vacate the premises within 7 days. All other marital assets, of which there appear to be few, are awarded to the petitioner due to documented dissipation and fraud. Respondent is further ordered to pay restitution for the fraudulent loan and dissipated funds, amount to be determined in subsequent proceedings. Outside the courthouse, Drayton approached me, eyes red. You happy now? He spat. You destroyed me. You destroyed yourself, Drayton. I just turned on the lights. I loved you. You called me stupid to your side piece. You stole from me. That isn't love. He looked broken. Mama's going to lose everything because of you. Your mama has her own federal case to worry about. I walked to my car and didn't look back. 3 months later, the criminal case is concluded. Drayton pleaded guilty to avoid a trial. He received 3 years probation, a permanent felony record, and was ordered to pay restitution. The full $15,000 loan, transferred to his name, plus the $20,000 in stolen savings. Creditors came out of the woodwork, private debts totaling nearly $20,000 more. He was drowning. Althea's case was harsher. Federal fraud against the government carried heavier penalties. She received 2 years in a minimum security facility. Her house was sold at auction to repay the government and her creditors. Chantel disappeared the moment she learned Drayton was broke and facing charges. I saw her Instagram a week later. New man, new city, new life. 6 months after everything began, I sat in my condo, the one I fought for, watching rain streak down the windows overlooking the Atlanta skyline. It was July 10th, 2026. I had received a promotion to senior accountant 2 months earlier. My salary had jumped significantly. My boss called me indispensable. I rented out Big Ma's Decatur condo for steady passive income. I never recovered most of the money Drayton stole, but it didn't matter. I knew how to make money. I knew how to survive. Sometimes I thought about the what-ifs, how it would have been if I'd left earlier, if I hadn't wasted 7 years. But time isn't refundable. You can only learn the lesson. The doorbell rang. I opened it. Drayton stood there, soaked from the rain, unshaven, jacket torn at the sleeve. He looked 10 years older. Issa, he rasped. Can I come in? Why? Just to talk, please. I stepped aside, letting him into the entryway, but no further. He looked around at the clean walls, the furniture I'd chosen, the life I'd rebuilt. It's nice here, he whispered. I miss this. What do you want, Drayton? He swallowed hard. I lost everything. Mama's in prison. The house is gone. I'm sleeping on my cousin's couch, and he's kicking me out tomorrow. No one will hire me with a felony. Take me back, Issa, please. I've changed. I'll work. I'll pay you back. You know me. I'm not a bad man. I just got lost. I looked at him silently. Once I had loved this man. Once I had believed in his potential. That was another lifetime. You know, Drayton, I said softly, when you forged my signature, you were betting I would stay weak, that I would clean up your mess, that I was stupid. He looked down at the floor. I was wrong, he whispered. Yes, you were. But the real issue is that for 7 years you ate my food, lived in my house, spent my money, and thought you were entitled to it. I opened the door wider. Now it's your turn to pay the bill. Build your own life. Without me. Issa, please. Goodbye, Drayton. He stood there a moment longer, hope fading from his eyes. Then he turned and walked back into the rain. I closed the door, locked the deadbolt. Click. I leaned against it, breathing deeply. No regret, no pity, just relief. My phone buzzed. Jamila. Girl, you coming to the holiday party next week? New CFO is single and fine. I smiled and typed back, I'm coming. But don't try to set me up. I'm focusing on me right now. Jamila. Understood. But looking is free. Maybe later. Right now I had myself, my home, my career, my peace, and that was worth more than anything I'd had in the last 7 years. I walked to the window and watched a hunched figure disappear, down the street into the rain. Then I turned away. The kettle whistled in the kitchen. My life was just beginning.